That's technology.
This is great. We're live. We're live here. This is so exciting to have Tal Brody, the great, on the line here with us at 76 Capital with our 76 Capital Leadership Series. I'm Wayne Kimmel. Thanks so much for tuning in and checking out what we're doing. We have Tal Brody with us live from Israel. What time is it in Israel right now, Tal?
6:09.
6:09 in Israel. We're really excited to have you here.
We're in the evening. We're still on a lockdown. And let me close this iPhone 1 second.
No problem. While you do that, I'll share with all of our viewers, because we're live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, as well as Twitter. And, this is really exciting for our 76 Capital Leadership Series, where we have Tal Brody. And Tal, his story is amazing, and we're going to get into it. And he made Aliyah, which means he moved and took citizenship in Israel after the 1965, the 7th Maccabiah Olympic Games, and became one of the most honored new immigrants in Israel's history, receiving the highest honor, the Israel Prize, at age 34. He was also selected to light the torch on Independence Day, and ran with that torch on opening up the 9th Maccabiah Olympic Games. He captained Maccabi Tel Aviv's. We're going to talk about this, winning the first European basketball championship, and was chosen as one of the top 10 immigrants that influenced Israel by the New York Times. He was also selected and is a member of the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame, and was in the Knesset, in the parliament in Israel, and was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award. He served in the U.S. Army and Israel Army. He's played for the U.S. national team. We're going to talk about that in the World Championships in 1970, the Israel national team, and is a dual citizen of both the United States and Israel. And today, Tal serves as the ambassador of goodwill, and 3 years ago was awarded the Ambassador of Friendship to the People's Republic of China. Tal, welcome to our 76 Capital Leadership Series.
Thank you, Wayne. It's quite an introduction. Outside of being in the Knesset, I was the Prime Minister Netanyahu referred me to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to take on this voluntary position as a goodwill ambassador, because I felt a hat on a sportsman is different than being a hat on a politician. And I prefer to keep that hat as a sportsman, but to take on this position of creating Israel's picture throughout the world and really saying what Israel is and not what you hear basically around these days in the school campuses and whatnot. And that's what I'm doing, creating goodwill, whether it's in China, whether it's in South America, or in the universities in the United States. And I prefer to take on this position than any type of political position, because this represents the whole state of Israel. It represents the Jewish communities all over the world, and I'm very proud to take on this position.
It's really incredible. You've had some career, and you're still doing some amazing things. And one of the things that we do on our 76 Capital Leadership Series is talk about everything from the world of sports, because we're a big sports investor in the sports industry, from the sports tech side, the esports world, and the sports betting industry. We also talk about innovation and just the opportunity to inspire others to do wonderful and great things. And you've certainly done that in your career. One of the things I'd love to start, maybe we'll even start from the beginning. Maybe some people on the stream are not even aware of the fact that you grew up in New Jersey. Maybe you could tell about a little bit your from growing up here in the U.S.
Well, as you said, I was born in Trenton, New Jersey. We're on the Delaware River Bridge. It says Trenton makes, the world takes, and that's what it really does. And I saw the Nia Long. I saw her on Facebook that she's even from Trenton, But anyway, started out playing at the Jewish Community Center Basketball League at age 8, 9, Police Athletic League, and in the middle of the week, also the Boys Club, and wound up at Trenton Central High School. We beat Camden in the finals 24-0 to take the Group 4 state championship. I was honored by being on the North News all-state team, I believe it was, the first 5, and taking the University of Illinois out of about 40 scholarship offers. I was going down south. And at that time, they had the point shaving scandals in the Atlantic Coast Conference. So all the schools, basically North Carolina State, North Carolina, all those, their schedules were cut down. And then when the Illinois opened up, the new gymnasium, now it's the State Farm, 16,618 people. We had a great team coming in. And freshmen at that time weren't allowed to play, but on the varsity, Jerry Colangelo, who I was at the Legend Banquet in Chicago, and I felt very proud because he got the NBA Lifetime Achievement Award. He started out in Chicago Bulls and built a franchise in Phoenix, and then went into USA basketball. So every practice, the freshman team was the other teams, Indiana, Ohio State, Michigan State. And I would battle with Jerry every day for a year. Then when he graduated, I went up to play as a sophomore with 4 seniors, and we won the Big Ten championship. We were number 3 in the United States. We beat Kentucky with Pat Riley and Louis Dampier during that time. And Adolph Rupp, I still remember, he was red as an apple, because the Baron never lost, at that period of time, especially in the Kentucky Invitational. And then we came into Madison Square Garden, and Rod Thorne took Jerry West's place. In the semifinals, we beat NYU. Barry Kramer, I think he still is, or maybe a retired judge in upstate New York, pumped in 44 points against us, but we did beat NYU. That's when they had really good basketball teams at that period of time. I understand that they changed their basketball program, or they didn't have it for many years, but now I think they're coming back. And in the finals, we beat West Virginia. And for me, coming from Trenton, New Jersey, we would take that Penn Station train, and we wound up in Madison Square Garden. So I used to come in with the guys on our team to see the New York Knicks, and Madison Square Garden was a dream for me. And here to come in with Illinois and to win the Holiday Festival tournament was amazing. So went on that year. We as I said, we were 3rd in the nation. We lost to Loyola of Chicago, which went on to beat, I think it was Cincinnati or Ohio State for the finals that year. And then 2 years with Illinois, we had good teams. And after I finished, with Rick Barry, Billy Cunningham, and a great line of players with the U.S. College All-Star team. We played the Russians when they first came to the United States. And the NBA draft came up, and I was honored by being the 12th in the overall draft with at that time was the Baltimore Bullets. And
one of my really good friends was saying to me, he's like, wow, I can't believe he didn't play for the Bullets, because he was the guy that I used to do radio with when I went to the University of Maryland. His name was Mark Quint, and he always talks about how he wished you would have played for the Bullets.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been going around the world. Every question that people ask me is that how can you give up an NBA career and to go play basketball in Israel? But for me,
tell us that story. Tell us that story, how you made that decision.
It wasn't a different. After going through the rookie camp, the Bullets, Buddy Jeanette and Abe Poland, and so they wanted me to stay on, and got me a nice apartment near Johns Hopkins University, and all of a sudden came to the 7th Maccabeah games in 1965 to go to Israel. So it was during the summer in July when I was in Baltimore at that time. I was practicing with Gus Johnson. I remember he had a star in his tooth over there. And so when these games came up, I told them, look, I'm a Jewish kid from Trenton. I've never been out of the United States, and they want me to join the U.S. team to go to Israel. And at that time, there were only 9 teams in the NBA. And I asked them that actually, you're very heavy on the 76ers. So actually, Dolph Schayes was coaching the 76ers.
Wow.
And I said, look, Dolph Schayes, they have a place open for guards. Why did you draft me in Baltimore when you had the Wally Jones and Johnny Egan, 2 small guards? You had Rod Thorne and Kevin Laugherty, 2 tall guards. Jerry Sloan is coming in with me as the 2 draft picks coming in. And I said, trade me to Philadelphia. They need guards. And they said, no, they wouldn't trade me. And at that time, we're young kids coming out of college. My lifetime dream was to play in the NBA. But to be realistic, I thought they never needed guards. So when the opportunity came up for Israel, and I go with the team to Israel, and the decision was a very sentimental decision because at that time, let's say the guys that were on the top 10 players in the U.S., we all signed for about $12,500 a year, $12,500. That's why when I see Rick and when I see Billy Cunningham, they went to the ABA. They didn't go to the NBA. It was before David Stern's period of time.
Right. Well, we're going to definitely talk about David, and this is really great. I just want to, basically tell our viewers here on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. I'm Wayne Kimmel. This is Tal Brody, the great, basically the can I call you the Michael Jordan of Israeli basketball? Is that all right?
Michael Jordan, it's hard to go. It's hard to be compared to Michael Jordan, but
you're beloved in Israel, here in the U.S. It's really great to have you on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, and these stories about growing up here in the U.S. and playing at Illinois, and then making the move and to Israel. It's just really incredible. So continue with your story. I think it's really great.
Okay, so we went to Poland, he was the owner of the team at that period, at that period of time. He passed away, unfortunately. But he said, okay, you can go 2 weeks and then you'll come back. So in the 2 weeks that I was in Israel, traveling around Israel and seeing the social life, the cultural life, the living between the people. And when Maccabi Tel Aviv, which was the number 1 team in Israel, when they came to me and they said, look, you can go back. You could be one of how many players in the NBA at that period of time, maybe 100 players. And, you can, okay. But if you come to Israel, you can change a whole country. You can bring pride to this country. Maccabi Tel Aviv never went past the first round of the European Championships. And when the fella that was talking to me, I took notice that he had numbers on his hand, and it was the summertime. His name was Noah Klieger. He was, in the concentration, coming out of the concentration camps and everything. And when I saw that this guy is asking me to come to Israel for a year, I remembered growing up in the States in the 60s and in the 70s, all we would see is World War II movies. Our heroes were Audie Murphy and everything that had to do with World War II in the concentration camps, what happened to the Jewish communities. And I felt, here I am, a Jewish, what could I do? High school kid, the college kid, what can you do? And here the guy's asking me to take a year out of my life. And as I said, the NBA, it was a dream for me. But for me to take a year out of my life when my father was actually, when I'm talking to the college kids and I say my father's a Palestinian, they don't believe me. And they say, how can your father be a Palestinian? You're Jewish. Then I have to give them the whole history that everybody before 1948 lived under the British mandate of Palestine. And he lived in Israel from 1921 to 23, and my grandfather for 10 years. So when this guy from the concentration camps, who was the president of Maccabi, when I remembered that, I couldn't do anything as a kid growing up in the States to help. And here they're asking me to take a year out of my life. So it wasn't something which I always thought that I can go back. And I said, maybe Baltimore will trade me to, and it was that first year was like unbelievable what happened. And that changed my whole thinking. When I say unbelievable, you have to understand, Wayne, you wouldn't believe the conditions. Illinois, 16,600 a game. We had a private at that time, DC-3 or DC-10 plane or something like. And Israel, all the games were outdoors. We would have to play in a sandstorm. Wow. We would get rained out. The courts were asphalt, and if you would dribble the ball, we played with a Voigt rubber ball, not a Spalding leather ball, a Voigt rubber ball that you didn't know where it was going to bounce. So with all that, I saw what it meant to our team. When we would play in East Europe and beat the teams, Romania, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, I saw how proud the country was. When we would go to West Europe, when the anti-Semitism in Germany and in France and Belgium, it's not any less than it is today, but it's today maybe it's even more. But I saw how proud the communities were when a team from Israel could come in and compete and win. Wow. And so I saw my whole dream of the NBA turning into what not could I do for myself is what can I do for a country and making a big difference. And this changed my goals, which I saw how the country was changing. And now when I look back from that time, we already won 6 times the European Basketball Championship. We won 1 international championship. Our team has been playing NBA teams for the last 20 years on the same floor equally. And for Israel's 60th birthday, I was invited back to the U.S. by the James Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts, where our team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, was the first team outside of the United States that was honored. And I cut that ribbon for that exhibition. And you know what a feeling for that for me when I look back today. Today, I'm married to Tirza. We have 3 children and 10 grandchildren in Israel. And because everybody's disciplined, now we changed the curve. The coronavirus is going down, but we're still on a 24-hour curfew. But today, 30% of the people are starting to get back to work.
That's great.
And slowly life is getting back. So that's more or less my decision was, feeling a feeling inside. So I don't think I was really giving up anything. It's not like being the 12th player today that you're going to sign for between $2 and $4 million in the draft. Or we have now Omri Caspi was. I'm very proud of Omri. Denny's going to be. He should be about 4th to 10 in the draft. It's not too often you find a 6th guy, an Israeli guy that can play all the positions over there. So
it's really great. And I was actually going to mention, I was talking to Omri earlier this week, and I told him that we were doing this, and he was excited. I told him that, first, you'll come on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, then we'll have him next. Maybe he's watching right now.
Great guy.
But he's a great guy, and like you, really has a really big vision for the world. Wants to help others, wants to be involved in business and thinks about innovation and thinks about really touching others and helping other people.
Exactly. That's true. He's been a quite influence to our team, even though unfortunately he was injured most of the season. But when he was on the floor, you can see the difference of the leadership of the team. And we had a good team. Unfortunately, the EuroLeague was canceled because of the coronavirus. But we were going towards the Final Four. We would have been into the Final 8, but we probably would have went into the Final Four with a good chance to get our 7th championship.
As we're at 76 Capital is based in Philadelphia, and I know you have a lot of friends here in Philadelphia. I've heard a number of them, whether that's from the. My son goes to Barak Hebrew Academy and is one of the basketball players there, and they're looking for any 7-footers or even 6'8" kids. If you could send them over for a couple of years, they'll take that.
Well, I have a neighbor. He's called Amara Stoudemire, and Amara, we're allowed to do. It used to be 100 meters from your house. Now they changed it to 500 meters today. So I go out once a day. My wife goes out once a day to the supermarket and comes back. I go once a day to do 30 minutes of fast walking, 100 meters, 30 times, back and forth, back and forth. But now we're allowed 500 meters. So when I go out, Amara, he's working with his son. His son's probably going to be a real good ball player, and he's really contributing to Israel. Amara, he came back even after retired from basketball. And when we have a lot of injuries this year after Omri Caspi got injured, and we had a lot of injuries in our front line. And Amara agreed to come in with our team and to help us out. And he was helping out. And he has his feet on the ground. He's contributing to Israel. He has his Israeli citizenship. He was a great player in the NBA, and not everybody wants to give up. And, a lot of times even to sit on the bench and to just cheering for your team and to come in for different spots. But he was okay. Amara was really contributing to our team.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, look, I know that the athletic director at Barrack, Justin Cooper and a lot of the other people, whether it's Scott Earlbaum, and I know his uncle Gary Earlbaum, and
Gary, of course, Gary and Vicky. Wow, they're at the same school.
They're all at the school together, along with Rachel Wax, and many of us are really, have always had this dream. Could we bring over, an Israeli transfer student to play basketball with our players? Maybe we'll have to work on that some other time. But it's something I know they're excited about. And also we have, the great, Steve Rosenberg is the CEO of Jewish Federation now of Greater Philadelphia. He's someone, his son is also on the Israeli baseball team that qualified for the Olympics.
We have baseball now in Israel. I'll tell you, it's a shame that the Olympics are not going to be this year, but because of the, Peter Kirsten, the baseball, and Robert Kraft, what he did for American football in Israel. I hosted his NBA or NFL legends, for me to meet Joe Montana and Roger Staubach and Jim Brown, and Roger, and
Jerome Bettis was part of that as well. I know that he
15 NFL Hall of Famers that came to Israel twice, and I was there when Robert Kraft I was invited to the Genesis Prize in Jerusalem. So we got $1 million prize. He gave it back and added another $19 million to fight anti-Semitism and BDS. Amazing what he's been doing for Israel, Robert Kraft. Really, kol hakavod, as we say to him, all the honor to him.
Absolutely. Well, I think, I had the honor and really pleasure to know David Stern. We invested in some companies together at 76 Capital. We actually invested in a basketball technology company along with his partner, John Cosner, called Shot Tracker. Mm-hmm. And we were investors in that. And David actually came and spoke. I got a chance to interview him at our 76 Capital Innovation Conference in November. It was one of his last interviews that he did, if not the last big public one that he did. And it's a real honor getting to know him. What a wonderful man and funny person, and just so smart. And one of the things that I really take away from my relationship with David is his vision, right? His vision of not only just being one of the greatest commissioners ever in sports, but also how he used sports for good, and how sports was bigger than just, and it was part of overall life. And I see that, within your role right now, as the ambassador of friendship and doing all the things that you're doing across, ambassador of goodwill, I should say, in Israel. Are those some of the things that you're now trying to do within Israel and around the world?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. There's couple parts. There's the technology part, bringing Israeli technology to the world. And the first part, I just want to relate to David Stern. That's been an unbelievable friend to Israel. He was here for the Final Four in 2004. I had lunch with David. It was a year ago in New York, and used to see him all the time at the NBA All-Star weekends, at the Newsmaker breakfast, or at the Legend banquet. And Diane, his wife, Diane always did that Newsmaker breakfast, which was fabulous. And this year, President Obama spoke. Even he came in. Adam Silver just said, "Hey, we have a fella that wants to say hello to everybody," and he came in and spoke. So
we were in the same room, and we didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
A lot of us were there in Chicago. It was pretty cold. Very
cold. very, very cold. I was lucky to get back before, after we came back, they started, anybody would come back to Israel, you had to be 14 days in solitary, or not in solitary, like quarantine. But anyway, with David Stern, he did so much for Israeli basketball to help it progress. We would come in, as I said, for the last 20 years, the last couple of years, they changed the program and they're playing all over outside for their preseason games. But when even when we played the Knicks, we came in fact, you're from Philadelphia. We started off when Katz was the owner before Josh, we were leading by 6 points in the last couple minutes. And all of a sudden, Barkley comes in and makes a half-court shot, or he gets fouled, and then they won the game by a couple points. But I remember Katz was very happy because he was able to sell his preseason tickets. If they would have lost to an Israeli team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, probably not. But when we played the New York Knicks, it took us 15 years to get the game. But Isaiah Thomas, at the time, when he was the president and the coach, he gave the order that our team is going to play Maccabi Tel Aviv. So we did the promo together, and we had 18,000. I told Isaiah in the promo, I said, don't be disappointed if nobody in Madison Square Garden is going to be cheering for the Knicks. So he said, well, nobody's cheering for us anyway these days. So about 18,600 people were cheering for Maccabi Tel Aviv in Madison Square Garden at that game. It was an amazing atmosphere. But that's our team when we go all over the world. Now, the second part about technology.
So before you finish that, I wanted to I've been very fortunate. I spent a lot of time in Israel for pleasure, for going over for Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia, or whether it's through JFNA, or even for business. So we even had a company in Israel. We sold that to Intel. So we've had some great success in Israel on the high tech side. But, one of the things I wanted to just, maybe share with our audience is, what is it like going to an Israeli or a Maccabi Tel Aviv basketball game? Because the way I describe it, I'll do it like this, is that it's almost like a half college basketball game, but then half European soccer game, because you have the singing, the cheering, the passionate crowd. And thank God I was with both my kids who can speak Hebrew fluently, so we can actually get around and get to our seats. So my wife and my kids and my wife also is pretty fluent. So at least they were able to help us get to the right place we needed to. But it was so exciting. The crowds were crazy inside of the arena.
I'll give you a couple of examples. When Alan Dershowitz comes to Israel, we go to a basketball game. And at one of the games, he asked one of the fellas from the Air Force if he can go out and get him earplugs, because the crowd was so loud with drums and everything. Now, when I hosted Rick Barry and Dr. J, when they came to Israel to do clinics for kids at risk, so they were also in the stadium, and the sound of the crowd, because you're talking about a European game where 11,000 is our capacity in Israel as our stadium. And it's 11,000 people that are singing together, waving flags and cheering. And, it's something very special. Next time you have to come during the basketball season so we can see a game. And then you can understand that feeling of the crowd. When it's an Israeli league game, it's divided up. Right. And so it gets tougher. But for a European game, it's the most beautiful atmosphere because everybody knows all the songs and all the cheers together.
That's really great. That's really great. Well, so you were also going to touch on, and as part of our 76 Capital Leadership Series, we certainly talk about innovation and technology and what's happening within the sports tech world. That's also a big part of what you're working on as well today, right?
Yes. One company, I think it's your company also that you went into, is WSC, which one of the first companies that did in technology. And I think the NBA and all the sports on the replays and everything, you have a lot of Israeli companies that are inside that. But in technology in general, a company which one of the companies which I'm handling is called MediCortex, that's doing a program that one of the big problems of sports today, not only in sports, but in general, is how to evaluate a concussion. So you have a subjective way, or you can do it objectively. They're the ones that are going to do it objectively by immediately taking a saliva test or a pee-pee test, that if you have a player, instead of sending him back into the game, immediately the doctor or the sports staff can tell what if he's has a problem, that he has some sort of effect from his fall or from his hit. So that's one type of sports technology that's in the clinical trials on the way up right now. But there are many companies, let's say right now with the coronavirus. I mean, we're about there with the vaccine. And there's companies like Ploristan and companies which are helping already people and doing clinical trials in the hospital in Teaneck, New Jersey, that people that have been affected by the coronavirus that have the problems, the coronavirus is eating your lungs, that if they're not really gone, there's a good chance that they can be saved, that they're in critical position. But let's say Israel itself, because we're a disciplined country, because we have rockets coming in from Hamas in the south, and in Lebanon it's been quiet, but when the country is ordered or asked to do something, over 90% of the people are doing it. That's why we're one of the top countries that if we have today, for Israel, it's a big number, 13,000 over affected, but 95% are mild. That's because we're wearing the mask when we go out of the house. That's because the 65 and over are staying in the house. That's why if you're riding in a car, nobody's going to ride next to you. They're going to ride in the back seat or in the elevator, either if you're alone or if it's a big elevator that you have a distance of 2 meters, it's about six feet.
Right.
So people are following the rules. For Passover, we did it on the Zoom screen.
Sure.
And it's my wife and I, we did it alone, and our children we have 10 grandchildren and 3 children, so they're separated, but we all did it together.
Very nice.
The world is changing. This is the technology for today, and I saw what you're doing. You have a lot of good companies, but I really saw that a lot of the pro ball players that are retiring are getting into your company and joining it also and investing into your company. That's very interesting. So you have a good background from various sports people that know the game. They know it's important. They can help identify good technology. And I think that's very important, for 76 Capital, that you have people with you that not only professional analyzers, but people that live the game that could also give their opinion.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I mean, once again, this is we're so lucky to have Tal Brody on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And, you brought up, something that we think is really important at 76 Capital is actually involving the athletes themselves in the investments that we make in the sports tech industry. I think so many people in the sports business, you have these big sports business conferences and everybody's there. The owners of the teams, the executives, the people that are involved around the industry, investors, right? But there's always this one group that gets left out, the athletes, the ones who are actually the true experts. So, a great example that, David Stern and I used to talk about is like, if you're going to do something in basketball and it's a new technology for basketball, you better put that ball or better put that technology in the hands of an athlete. So they actually can tell you whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing, because they're truly the expert when it comes down to it. And they're the ones who can feel the difference between a ball that has something shaking inside of it that you can't play with as compared to a really, truly well-made piece of technology.
That's interesting. I saw your interview with the baseball that has the technology in there.
Yeah. This is actually the one you're talking about right now.
Yeah. So, I asked the question, but it was late. It was after the show. And I wanted to know if you can use that same technology and put it into a basketball. You could probably learn from it, a lot.
Yeah, and that's the company that we called Shot Tracker. So Shot Tracker has a very similar technology than what Diamond Kinetics does. And Shot Tracker is able to track movements, over 120 movements a second that a basketball player makes on the court. You can it's really incredible. And many of the college programs across the country, whether it's the Mountain West or the or the Big 12, some of the ACC teams now, we're gonna be pretty big in the Big 10. So we'll make sure you're fighting the line. I get it as well. And you're able to use this technology during the game, during practice, be able to track all the things that are moving, like Coach Bill Self from Kansas loves this technology. He actually is able to stop practice, look on his iPad and say, hold on a second. We're figuring out having, stats instantaneously as to what's going on the court.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's good. So they can do it in basketball then in the future?
It's happening right now. Actually, the Mountain West, the full Mountain West tournament this year, as well as their whole season, all of their games were shot tracker enabled. So we have this amazing technology.
Amazing.
There's a lot happening in that world, and we're looking to do more and more. We're always looking for entrepreneurs all over the world, whether it's in Israel or here in the United States or just anywhere. So I think that it's a great segue into one of the people that I wanted to also mention who says hello to you is Sam Katz from Philadelphia.
He was running for mayor at one time also, didn't he? Did he get it?
He was, and he's a partner of ours and involved in a lot of things that we do at 76 Capital. So when he saw we were doing this, he was very excited to say hello. And
thank you.
Great stories.
I remember I met him in Israel. I'll tell you, so many people. I remember also, I think was it Lieberman? Who was the past Federation president, not Nancy Lieberman, but I think before the present, Steve, but Gary, I'm telling you, don't play tennis with Gary. He cuts the ball. I'm telling you, I play him in the King David in the Jerusalem when he comes. I can't walk after I'm playing tennis with him. He keeps on cutting the ball and your legs get killed. But Gary and Vicky are friends for since we met at Moshe Dayan, the former chief of staff. He's a real friend of Israel. Really, it's
great friend here in Philadelphia. His grandchildren are friends with my kids, and his sons and nephews are friends of ours, and it's just very, very really nice people. And also someone who's a really big thinker, and I think that that's what you get to do on a global scale. And I would love to, one of the things that I'm doing also at 76 Capital, we're starting actually a leadership series. It's going to be on the BBYO online. It actually starts. And
JNF, Jewish National Fund, BBYO.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing something on that show, and we're going to be talking to teens all around, not only here in the U.S. but all around the world about sports and getting involved in sports and what that is like. So if you have any really good advice that you could offer to some kids who want to be great in sports and business and just be a good person, what kind of advice would you give to young people today?
I'll tell you, with young people today, it's different than we were growing up. Today, it's tough to get them off the computer and to go outside. So the main thing is you have to make sure you have time to practice. Even esports is becoming very popular. But if you're an athlete and you want to be an athlete, you got to get out there on the floor and practice. You learn from your coaches. You have to have patience. Not everything is just going out and just playing. You have to learn the fundamentals of the game, be strong in the fundamentals, be that person that's willing to, in basketball, to play offense, but you got to play defense as well. So when you're young, the younger you are, you have to live up to what the basics are as far as being a player. When you become a pro player, the coaches aren't teaching you that much the fundamentals of the game, but how to work within your team. If you can't shoot, by the time you get to the NBA, like Steph Curry or Thompson or everybody's out there, you're going to have a problem today, because today the game's from the outside. You don't see like Wilt Chamberlain when I worked at his Claire B All-American camp in Kutcher's, or Bill Russell. I remember being on the bus with Bill Russell, and these guys are talking about, they can't believe the salaries that these guys get. You know, when he won the championship, he was glad that the Red Auerbach raised him to $101,000. So when Kenny Smith and Shaquille and Abdul Jabbar and Dr. J and Magic Johnson, they were all on the stage. So they asked him, he says, why you're so happy at $101,000? So he said, well, Wilt Chamberlain was making $100,000. I wanted to get $101,000. So if you learn the fundamentals, you're on the way. You just have to love the game. You stay with it. You have to know that you have to give up things in life. You know, you can't just go run out to the ice cream parlor every day with your friends or go to every dance that's on a Friday night if you're playing on, you know, during the week on a Wednesday, if your game's on Thursday. So you have to get out there and play by the book. And I always loved what Claire B taught me when I went to his camp. He said, to be or not to be, it's up to you. If you think you can, then be a star and shine in the sky. But if you think you can't, just let it go. So if you believe in yourself, you're halfway there.
That's really great advice, and it's very similar to what we always say about entrepreneurship, right? You have to have that incredible passion, the desire, the drive, and the persistence, right? You got to be able to get up and just keep doing it, even when you're down. And you know, a lot of those same exact things that you're talking about from an athletic side, those are the same traits that you need to be successful in business.
Exactly, because in business, especially when you're in the startups, you have a lot of downs more than you have the ups. But when you're up, you get the payment for what you've been working for. It's not every startup makes it, but if you have a dream, you have a vision, and you want to do it, okay. What you did and didn't succeed, and tomorrow you can change it and do different variations and succeed. So the ones that don't give up and keep pushing and know when they reach their limit, to know they have to change and to go in a different way. That's it. So you have to know exactly where you're going, but don't give up after a failure. Learn from your failures. Learn from the days that you're not starting and you're on the bench. Then think about why you're on the bench and not out there on the floor. So if somebody else is doing something better, learn from what they're doing better than what you're doing. And that's it. That's what you said. It's in everything, whether it's in technology or life, any type of business.
Well, again, this is amazing to have you, and we're coming to the end. And I wanted to ask you, you know, maybe one other question. And again, you know, to have the great Tal Brody on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, I really appreciate it. And tonight, this is here in the U.S. It's getting to dusk, I guess, in Israel right now. But tonight here in the U.S. is the Michael Jordan new Last Dance series is starting. It's going to be about his last championship run with the Chicago Bulls. That's coming on ESPN now. I'd love to get your thoughts on Michael Jordan as a player, and what was that like, you know, for you know, seeing him play, and what your thoughts are on him.
Well, I'll tell you, after, you know, during my time, we looked up to Jerry West and Oscar Robertson, Elgin Baylor. You know, that's the period of time. Before them, you know, Bob Cousy, Boston Celtics, Red Auerbach, and everything what they did. Michael Jordan in this era of basketball, very, very tough to beat. I mean, you have guys out there that's all the times being compared, but I think everybody have to compare him in that era. And I just love to watch him as a ball player, and he had the ability to pull his team together. I saw him in the All-Star games where, you know, the All-Star games is just dunking and nobody's playing defense. But Michael Jordan was on that floor. He didn't want to lose. He wasn't giving up. He was blocking shots. He was stealing balls, and he played in an all-star game, which everybody doesn't want to get injured, and they just let everybody dunk the ball. And he was out there to win. And that was Michael Jordan. It didn't matter who he was playing against. He came out on that floor to give 100%. And he had the ability to go with it. And you have to remember, we're talking about ups and downs in North Carolina. And even in high school, he wasn't considered even to even think about making the pros. And here's a guy that did everything that any basketball player would want to do. It's a shame, Kobe Bryant was honored in the All-Star weekend with David Stern together on the two tragedies of basketball. But Michael Jordan contributed to the game. Very few people thought when he retired, basketball is going to be able to keep its level. But I would have to say the league today is probably the best all-around league that it's ever been. Now, Philadelphia is back. I'm telling you, I saw Inbred. I saw Simmons. Wow, I'm telling you, you got a team out there. And it's been down for a few years, but you're back again. I mean, God, I love I was there when Allen Iverson in Philadelphia. I went with Gary and Earl Baum, and it was against Shaq. And Allen Iverson on that floor, he dunked on Shaq. I'm telling you, he's about third his size, and he went up there. But no, Philadelphia is definitely in this team that's going to be in there. It's a young team now, and I think they're on their way up.
So the last question. I know that you are friends with Bill Walton, right?
Yeah, we were on the USA team in the World Championships in '70.
So was he as funny as he seems when he as he now is a commentator on TV, and he just seems like a real character?
Well, I'll tell you, Billy is an unbelievable person. When he played with us in the 1970 in the World Championships, he was a young kid coming out of high school because if you had amateur status in college, you weren't allowed to play with a USA selected team in the World Championships, like in the Olympics. Professional players weren't allowed to play. So that's why Billy Walton, being the best player coming out of high school that year, it came on to our team, and he had to play against guys, Darnell Hillman, Garfield Smith, big guys that went to the Celtics, the Pacers, and it was tough for him. And the coach, Hal Fisher, used to get down on him, unbelievable. And we were roommates on this whole tour in Germany and going to Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia, and he wanted to give up basketball. And we would talk, and I'm telling you, Bill, you got a great career ahead of you at UCLA. And all this is going to be a learning experience. And at that time, he was stuttering. I see him at the All-Star Weekend speaking on the stage. I mean, he is so elegant, and he has that language. He's a real what they call mensch, And we're friends all through the years. And since we have internet and Facebook, his wife, Lori, we were at his home, and he has the Grateful Dead, the band, right in his living room. And I was very happy when Luke got the job with the Lakers. Now he's at Sacramento, and he was in Israel 2 times at least. I remember, I think 2 or 3 times, 2 times for sure. And we still keep seeing each others from time to time. But we're all in a different time span. When Bill got, I think it was $14 million to play with San Diego after Portland. In fact, Portland, one of the most beautiful things that Bill said in a movie which they made of our 1977 team, because we beat the Russian team, which beat the U.S. team in that controversial game. By 3 times they took the ball back before they finally, Alexander Belov made the basket. And so, all this, he says that, look, I was never so proud as my friend Tal, that in 1977, when he said himself, he was voted the NBA MVP of the Portland Trailblazers when they won the NBA championships, that my friend Tal was captain of Maccabi Tel Aviv, and they won the European basketball championship, beating the Russians and beating Mobile Giorgi of Varese from Italy. He said he was never so proud. And that's Billy. Billy expresses himself, and as I say, he's a real mensch, a really great guy. And he had problems with his ankle and everything still from that period of time. And so we see each other. Great friends from that period of time in the States. Now they have internet, Facebook, all this. You can keep contact with people. I saw Billy Cunningham. He came to see our movie in Palm Springs or Palm Beach in Florida. Rick, I see at the All-Star weekends all the time. Bill Bradley, he was on stage at one of the All-Star weekends, and with Allen and Sons in New York, he was working with them with investments. Gail Goodrich from time to time. That was our starting five. Gail and I, we started backcourt. Billy Cunningham one corner, Rick Barry in the other corner. We had a hell of a team. We had a good college all-star team.
That's incredible. Incredible stories, incredible life. 10 grandchildren. I'm incredibly honored to have had you on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. I think we could go on all day. I'm loving this conversation, and I know you got to go back to your family and your wife, and I really just appreciate the time. I'm again just incredibly honored. I admire all the things that you're doing, whether once on the court, but now all the amazing things around the world, all the good that you're doing in this world. It's needed. Thank you so much. And again, I hope that we get to do more of this in the future.
No, thank you. Good regards, warm regards to Sam, Gary, and Scott, and James for putting this all together. And I promise you, once our curfew is finished and I'm allowed to go out of the house more than 500 meters, I'm going to go to the digital store and change my camera so you can see a lot better. But we can't move so much. But we're okay. Everything's okay here. We look at the glass that's half full, not half empty. So we're looking to a good future once things open up. And this was the first day that the restrictions are starting to get the lockdown to be released. So we hope that it's going to be finished very soon.
Wow, this is awesome. Stay safe, stay healthy. Really appreciate it. And we'll be in touch, and hopefully we can do some really exciting things together in the future and make this whole world a better place. So this has been Wayne Kimmel with the great Tal Brody, live from Israel. Just excited, so excited to have you. I'm pumped up for the rest of the day. I'm going to go out and start to do my walks and runs and all the things I need to go do today. So thanks so much, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. Thank you.
All right, thank you.